It's time. Next up in my division rankings, we're going to AFC North. We got the Steelers, Ravens, Browns, Bengals. This is a tough division. If you known for hardcore defense, if you go back years, it shifted a little bit, but a lot of movement in this division. Only one team still has the head coach from last year. We'll do some additions, some subtractions from each team. We'll get into how their offense ranked last year, offensive line, but also the defense. And then we'll start breaking down depth charts. At the end, I'm going to rank the quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, and then my predictions for how they're going to finish in this division. But first up, the Ravens, new coach coming in, former defensive coordinator of the Chargers, Jesse Minter. John Harbaugh moved over to the New York Football Giants. They also traded for Trey Hendrickson. They had Max Crosby for a second, but some injuries, maybe buyer's remorse, gave it too much. They ended up getting Trey Hendrickson from the Bengals, so division rivalry. And then they also bring in Calais Campbell. Dude, this guy will look, I'm pretty sure he's in his mid-40s, but he can still play. He had some moments last year. He ended up getting a flex of the week for me on the VC Playmakers podcast. Calais Campbell plays on the line, rushes the passer, and then they drafted Ione, I think that's his name, slated to play offensive guard. And then Ja'Cory Lane, we'll look at him too, wide receivers. That's some of the additions for the Ravens. For the Bengals, this is the only team with the same head coach. Zach Taylor returns. I'm kind of surprised. The Bengals have been kind of in mediocrity for a long time, maybe not even as good as mediocrity. Tons of injuries. Offensive line's terrible. Joe Burrow gets beat to snot. They made a big trade, traded their first round pick to the Giants to get Dexter Lawrence. Sexy Dexy, I think is his nickname. You're just going to clog up the middle, that defensive tackle spot. I think that was a good trade because he's a known commodity. If they need someone to change their defense around, because their defense, leaky doesn't even, the damn blue. Their defense was horrendous. The offense had to just be gunning the entire game. They also bring in safeties. Brian, I think it's Cook. I wrote down cool. I think it's Cook, Kyle Duggar. And then they drafted an edge, Cassius Howell, cornerback Tacario Hall, and then a center, Connor Liu. We'll have to check their names. Going over to the Browns, head coach Todd Monken, the former OC of the Ravens, a lot of inner division moving and shaking. So the OC for the Ravens goes over there. They also draft left tackle Spencer Fanu. I love that pick. And then wide receivers Casey Concepcion and Denzel Boston. Their wide receiver room looks completely different. KC goes in the first round. Boston goes in the second round. But the big thing they did is they traded Myles Garrett over to the Rams, and Jared Verse came. Verse is a stud. Not as good as Myles Garrett, but Verse is someone who wreaks havoc on quarterbacks. And then Steelers, Mike Tomlin's gone, man. He was there forever. I'm a big Mike Tomlin fan. In comes Mike McCarthy, former Cowboys coach, Packers. They also bring in Michael Pittman Jr., wide receiver, to pair opposite DK Metcalf. And then a couple other, I believe both these guys are defensive backs, Dean and Darnell Savage. Savage, I like that guy. With a name like that, you got to be good. They drafted Max, gonna beat up this name, Ionor. We'll bring him up. And then they also, wide receiver Jeremy Bernard. I think he's looked decent in preseason so far. And quarterback Drew Allar. He played good in the first preseason game. And then preseason game number 2, him and Howard. I think Howard's the other quarterback vying for that backup spot. They didn't look too good. The Steelers got shut out in that one. Subtractions, big for the Ravens. They lose Tyler Linderbaum to the Raiders. That was their center. Quite a few Ravens joined John Harbaugh over in the Giants. Isaiah Likely, really good tight end, I think. Not a Pro Bowler, but I think he's a good offensive weapon. And then Patrick Richard, fullback, but that's a big loss to the run game. Bengals lose Trey Hendrickson, like we talked about. They also lose edge Joseph Asai, and then Geno Stone. Browns, we talked about losing Myles Garrett. And then a couple guys, Devin Bush, he's had a good career, linebacker, and then Cornelius Lucas. Steelers, the biggest ones, Mike Tomlin. They haven't been able to get off the hump. They get to the playoffs and they get booted out. So, got to change it up eventually. Jonnu Smith, tight end, he exits as well. In terms of offensive rankings for 2025, the Ravens were 16th in the NFL, best in this division. Cincy was right behind them at 18. Pittsburgh was 25. The Browns were pathetic at 30th. Offensive line rankings, the Browns were 7th. So fantasy football-wise, have some faith in that Browns line. They made some changes. They're bringing in that high-profile rookie, Fanu. Ravens were 19th. Cincy was right there, close where the Ravens were. And then Pittsburgh was 24th. Defensively, the Browns were 4th. Myles Garrett looking to set sack records. They drafted well last year, and those guys produced. Very young team with the Browns. Ravens were 24th, Pittsburgh was 26th, and Cincy was 31st. This division known for defense, only the Browns are showing up for that. All these teams are hoping they're going to be healthy and they can get back to playing some solid defense. Let's take a look at the Ravens depth chart. First, you got to start with Lamar Jackson. Just a phenomenal joystick type player. Michael Vick, when I was a kid, he could run and throw. Michael Vick, I think, had a better arm, but Lamar Jackson, how he's developed himself in the NFL has just been fantastic. First round pick back in 2018, Ravens traded up to get that 32 pick. Last year, battled some injuries, 21 touchdowns. The year before, he had 41. So, that's a huge drop off. He only played 13 games versus 17 the year before. Passing yards, almost 2,000 difference. Had 3 more interceptions. But, he's smart with the football. That 41 is an anomaly because he's got 24, 26. He's got 36 his second year. Doesn't throw a ton of interceptions. Rushing the ball. This is where he's lights out too. He's got 2,000-yard seasons. In 2024, almost 1,915. He just wasn't the same coming back from those injuries. And so although he was playing, you could tell something was off. He only 349 yards and 2 touchdowns. Big drop off last year. That's the thing. When Lamar's going to be one of the top quarterbacks drafted in fantasy football, if he's not running, is he where Matthew Stafford goes? That shouldn't be by comparison. Is he where Joe Burrow goes? Joe Burrow has a better arm than him. So going into the year 29, he is beat up quite a bit. I am a big fan of Lamar Jackson. I think most of us are looking for a bounce back. He's dynamite out of Louisville. Next player we're going to talk about is Derrick Henry. The videos of this man stiff-arming defensive players out of the way. Stiff-arming them with so much power. They fly out of the screen. They helicopter. This man is just all muscle, all power, and he's big. 6'2", 252 pounds, and he can run with the best of them. Once he gets going, good luck. He is 32, though. The wear and tear has taken a toll on him. Drafted in 2016, second-round pick. Let's just take a look at his stats. So most of his career with the Tennessee Titans, but the last 2 years with Baltimore, not quite a 400-yard drop-off. He's played 17 games in the last 3 seasons. And then in 2022, he played 16 games. So he's really consistent. He only had 1 year where it looks like he battled injuries, and that's in 2021. 1,000-yard rushing, 4 seasons in a row. And then touchdowns, 16 touchdowns 2 years in a row, and they had 12 and they had 13 in 2022. Derrick Henry's really consistent. You just have to worry, at what point are we going to see a bigger drop off? He's flashy in the way he plays, and especially being over in Baltimore with Lamar running. Folks had really high hopes for him, but I know in the league that I was in, he had games where he was very quiet. He'd have these monster games, and he's had these games where you'd wonder, where was he? The other thing, though, I saw Baltimore do last year, got to blame it on Todd Monken, even though he leveraged that into a head coaching job. The Ravens had some games where they were up, but then Derrick wouldn't play in the fourth quarter, so it didn't make sense. I don't know why you don't ride Derrick Henry unless he was banged up and had some injuries in there, but I don't think that's the case. I think they were trying to save him for later on in the year for a playoff push. Fantasy-wise, it backfires on you. He's not a huge receiving back. Don't count on him for this. It's rushing the ball and getting those touchdowns. I think this guy is so fun to watch. Played for Alabama. Just a great career for Derrick Henry. Now, looking at his backups, if you get Henry, I would handcuff him with Justice Hill. I'm not sure who this Ali and Randall guys are. I'll have to research them more. Justice Hill, we know him. He's 28 years old. He's been in Baltimore for a little bit. Just taking a look at him. Doesn't get a ton of playing time. And there was a couple other backs vying for time. Last year, only played 10 games. He is a receiving threat, though. He's got a high of 52 receptions in 2024. He's going to be that third down back. Justice Hill, absolutely handcuffed. The other guy to highlight is Zay Flowers. We got Bateman here. We got Jacoby Lane, the rookie. Zay Flowers, he's the clear-cut number 1. He's 25 years old. He's 5'9", 183 pounds. First-round pick in 2023. He is Lamar Jackson's favorite target. This is really consistent. High 70s to mid-60s. High last year, 86. Receptions, high in yards, 1,200, and then he had 5 touchdowns. Looks like this is where he's going to be. He's had 5 touchdowns twice and then 4. But Zay Flowers, if he's your number 1 fantasy-wise, that's not bad. But I think he's more of like a 2 fantasy-wise. Rashard Bateman, also a first-round pick, but in 2021. This guy, to me, just has moments where he'll have some big games, but this guy may not go drafted in leagues. I guess it depends on how deep your league is, how many receivers you play. His rookie year, he had 46 receptions. That was his high. In 2024, he had the high yardage. He had 45 receptions, 756 yards, and 9 touchdowns. Folks were expecting him to break out last year. He played 13 games. He's not bad to have, but there's other receivers in this conference I'd want over Bateman. And then we'll just take a look at this rookie real quick. He was drafted in the 3rd round. He's 6'4". So this is interesting. You get a big body for Lamar Jackson to toss the ball up there. The mainstay, tight end wise, Mark Andrews. He's 30 years old. 3rd round pick back in 2018. Let's just look at his stats, see how consistent he is. He used to be one of the bona fide best fantasy tight ends out there, but his production has dropped off. In 2021, 107 receptions, 9 touchdowns. Last year, he's played 17 games the last 2 years, 48 receptions last year, only 5 touchdowns. The Ravens offense, when Jackson gets hurt, it just wasn't the same anymore. So Mark Andrews for me, he is going to get drafted, but he had that high of 11 touchdowns in 2024. He had 10 in 2019, but he's probably going to be in that 5 to 7 range is my guess. Offensive line-wise, I do like this. Ronnie Staley holding down the blind side for Lamar Jackson. He's really good. Ione, this is a rookie they drafted. He's a plug and play, 14th overall pick this year. I think this kid's going to be a beast, 6'4", 320 pounds, just going to be a mauler. So that was solid. My biggest worry about this offensive line, I think Ethan Posich, either this guy got hurt or the other guy that they expected to be the starter replacing Linderbaum. So they're now dropping down to their 2nd or 3rd on the depth chart center. And unless some guy steps up, that could be a big weak spot for the Ravens, especially when they play the Bengals and they got Dexter Lawrence in there. So that's the one area that I'm worried about. These other guys, offensive line was decent last year. The offense, I'm expecting them to be good. The other thing, running the ball, Richard's gone, went over to the Giants, and so now you have projected Lucas Scott. 22 years old. This is his first season out of Army. We'll see if he can pick up where Richard left off. Defensively, let's just go to Campbell first. 39, my bad. I thought he was way older than he is, but 39, I mean, the wear and tear of this guy. I'm a big fan of Campbell. The first chunk of his career played with the Cardinals, then he was Jacksonville, Baltimore, Atlanta, Miami, Arizona, and back to Baltimore. So Arizona and the Ravens definitely have love for this guy. Just look at his sacks, 14.5, 10.5. He's havoc. I mean, he's going to get up there to like 7 to 12 sacks is kind of the average he's done. He has dropped off the last few years. You look at the last 3, 6.5, 6 sacks is where he was doing his damage, but he should be a good rotational piece, that veteran leadership, mentoring some of these young guys. This is the man I should talk about. Fun to watch. Kyle Hamilton, Swiss Army knife type of defensive back. He's only 25 years old, 1st round pick in 2022. He can just do it all. Big bodied, 6'4", 218 pounds. He likes to mix it up. Teams do not want to throw at him, but Hamilton will go in there and drop his shoulder and tackle some folks. I think he's a really smart player. He's entering the prime of his physical career. Perennial Pro Bowl Kyle Hamilton. I mean, that's what I would say. I wish he was a 49er. I'd love that. Another guy we'll talk about, I do not know how to pronounce his name, so I'm not even going to try. He only played 2 games last year, 17 to 3 years prior. He's a pass rusher too. He had 13 sacks in 2023, and then 2024 he had 6.5. So this is somebody with Campbell, with Trey Hendrickson. If these guys are healthy, they're going to be putting pressure on these quarterbacks. And let's look at Henderson, 31 years old. So I mean, he's on the older side. But New Orleans Saint and then Cincinnati Bengal, 17.5 sacks twice, and that was in 2024 and 2023. He had 14 sacks in 21 and 13.5 in 2020. Trey Hendrickson is a force to be reckoned with. I am liking what the Ravens are doing over here. And then let's just do one more stud of a linebacker, Roquan Smith. I was a real big fan of this guy when he was drafted 2018 by the Bears, pick 8 overall in the 1st round. Excellent. He's one of those captains of the defense. So between Roquan Smith handling the linebackers, calling the plays, then you got Kyle Hamilton handling the secondary. They have a good core unit. And then you got Marlon Humphrey and then Nate Wiggins on the cornerbacks. Marlon Humphrey, also a 1st round pick, 30 years old. So he's wise, he's savvy veteran over here. The outlook for the Ravens, again, if they're healthy, pretty good. 4 interceptions last year for Humphrey, 6 the year before. Now let's go over to the Bengals. And just like the Ravens, who do you talk about first? You got to talk about Joe Burrow. This offense is just like a fantasy wonderland. A number of these guys are going to be high draft picks. Joe Burrow, if he's healthy, he's excellent. He's just not a big runner. But you look at this guy. He only played 8 games last year. He had 17 the year before, and he threw 43 touchdowns, a career high. If he's healthy, that's the big thing. He played 16 games in 2021, 34 touchdowns, 2022, 35 touchdowns. It all goes back to health. The weapons are here. Joe Burrow's got a great arm. He's a smart player. We'll see. Not a big runner, but that's okay. We don't want him getting hurt running the ball. In 2024, all 17 games, 201 yards rushing and 2 touchdowns. Joe Burrow, he's going to be top 5 fantasy football quarterback drafted this year. I had him the last 2 years in my sleeper league. Last year was a struggle just because of the injuries, but that wasn't his fault. The year before, though, I ended up getting in the championship game, right? Burrow was one of the guys to get me there. Another guy that I'm hoping to draft this year, I have a pick back towards the back of the first round. So one of my first 2 picks, I'm going to go Chase Brown, 26 years old, 5th round pick. I mean, the Bengals are really lucked out drafting this guy. So far, he's very consistent. He's played 3 seasons. Last year was his first 1,000-yard season. He almost had 1,000 in 2024, and then 7 touchdowns and 6, those 2 full season years. And then he's a receiving threat too, 54 receptions and then 69 receptions in 2025. 4 touchdowns, 5 touchdowns receiving. Chase Brown, if you have him as your number 1 fantasy football running back, you should be very pleased with yourself. Let's keep the fantasy football dream going. Jamar Chase, 26, arguably the best receiver in the NFL. This year, it's either going to be him or Puka going 1. I think some people will sneak in and try to get JSN in there. When Burrow's healthy, but we're going to look at what he did last year because it was a mixed mash of different quarterbacks. He didn't have as many touchdowns and about 300 less yards. He did play 16 games and then 17 games the year that Burrow was healthy. He had 17 touchdowns when Burrow was healthy. So again, it goes back to Burrow being his best so that Chase can really shine. Chase looks like he's quarterback proof. He's going to get you the receptions. He had 125 last year, 127 the year before, 100 the year before that in 2023. And then touchdown wise, he's kind of hovering, I would say, around 10. His high of 17, his low of 7. The other stud that people are really high on, he's frustrating me just from a fantasy standpoint. I think he's the absolute beast. 27 years old, out of Clemson, 2nd round pick. You look at T. Higgins, 11 touchdowns last year, 10 the year before, not quite 1,000 yards. He hasn't had 1,000 yards since 2022, and he hasn't played these full seasons. Last year he played 15, and the 2 years prior he only played 12. So health may be an issue for T. Higgins, but he's pretty consistent in what he's getting you, yardage and it looks like touchdowns. His low was 5 touchdowns, but he's hovered around this like 7 to 8 mark for TDs. T. Higgins, for me, fantasy-wise, if you have measure 2, that's pretty good. Just because I've been burned by this guy a little bit, I'd rather have him as my 3rd wide receiver because he has these games where he doesn't do a whole lot. And then he has these games where he totally goes off. That's the part that's just really hard to predict. The other guy I'll just highlight, Andre, 26 years old. He's their 3rd wideout. He's going to be on the field quite a bit. One of these sleeper guys. He's played full seasons pretty much the last 3 years. Because there's so many balls to go around, he gets under 500 yards. He did have 6 touchdowns in 2024. But just keep your eye on him. If Chase or Higgins go down, that's the guy you want to pick up. Tight end wise, we got Mike Gesicki, 30 years old, 2nd round pick to Miami. Just look at his stats. I'm not expecting this guy's going to be drafted fantasy wise unless you run like a 2 tight end league in your starting lineup. He's been with Cincinnati for 2 years. Last year, 307 yards, only played 13 games, but he had a run of like 4 or 5 seasons where he played 17 games. Hasn't had 1,000 yards receiving, but he had 780 in 2021, 665 in 2024, so more recent. Not a big TD guy either. His high is 6, but he's had 2 touchdowns the last 3 seasons. Offensive line-wise, Orlando Brown, we know this guy well, 30 years old, 3rd round pick, so he's protecting the blind side of Joe Burrow. Ted Karras, another veteran, 33 years old, a 6th round pick to New England, so he's got those Patriot roots. Then you got a young buck on the right side, Marius Mims, 1st round pick in 2024. So Bengals are really looking to see what this guy can do. And then we'll look at one more. Dalton Risner, 2019 2nd round pick from Denver. There's not a ton of superstars on this line, but they have invested a few of their picks. And this is the guy, Connor Liu, that they drafted in the 4th round. So I'll be curious to see, can this guy get in there and steal that center job? Defensively, here's some of the additions. I didn't reference Mafe, but this is a big one. Get him from Seattle, 2nd round pick. He was one of those guys on that really stellar defense they had last year. He's disruptive. So he only had 2 sacks, but you see his force out there. He might free up someone else. I think that was a great addition by Cincinnati. The other guy, Dexter Lawrence, the second, we talked about him. Just a big beast of man, 350 pounds, 6'5". He may be bigger than that. I don't know. Sometimes they undersell. Not a big sack guy. He had 7.5 in 2022, but he can take on 2 guys. Just a powerhouse of a man. I like those 2 additions, Mafe and Dexter Lawrence. You also got Jonathan Allen, longtime Washington Commander, 31. So you got these veteran leadership over here. Last year played with Minnesota, but before that it was all Washington. 7.5 sacks in 2022, 9 in 21. He's a very smart player in Jonathan Allen. I really like what Cincinnati's doing, trying to rebuild this team. Linebacker-wise, you got Barrett Carter. Last year, 53 tackles. He's 23. He's going in his 2nd season. Miles Murphy, 5.5 sacks last year. He's 24, another young guy, 1st round pick in 2023. Oren Burks, he's been around different teams. I want to say he was on my 49ers for a while. So they have him penciled in as one of their starting linebackers too. He was drafted by Green Bay in 2018. Again, a lot of veteran leadership is on this team. You got Dax Hill, 25 years old, 2022 1st round pick by the Bengals. 1 interception last year, 11 passes defended. This Cincinnati defense should get better. I am liking what I'm seeing from them. All right, now we're looking at the Cleveland Browns, Deshaun Watson, Shedeur Sanders. We'll just look at them real quick. They're in a quarterback battle right now. Watson, I love this guy when he came out of Clemson, but then he's been naughty is an understatement. All these allegations against him. He hasn't played in a while, so we're going back to 2024. He only played 7 games. The 2 years prior to that, he only played 6. We got to go back to 2020 when he played 16 games. I don't know what this guy has left in the tank. I think in his prime, he could run the ball in this like Jackson Dart, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson type potential. He's got a really good arm, but I don't know. With everything he was doing, all the accusations, I'm kind of bummed the Cleveland Browns are letting him play. I think he should be done. Justin Tucker did very similar accusations against him with these whole massage parlor things. So, man, I'm rooting for Shedeur Sanders to take this one. Shedeur going into year 2, 5th round pick in 2025. We talked about him a ton on the VC Playmakers podcast. Deion's his dad, man. I love Deion Sanders. Shedeur should get better. He played 8 games last year, but he threw 10 interceptions to his 7 touchdowns. I don't know what to expect. The offense looks a lot better than it did last year, but their quarterback room is kind of a mess. I am a big fan of their running back, Quinshon Judkins, also going into year 2, 22 years old. This is a powerhouse of a back. In his 1 year, 14 games, 827 yards, 7 touchdowns. Their offensive line, best in the division. Expecting him, he's going to get 1,000 yards. So if he stays healthy, 1,000 yards, 10 plus touchdowns. Not a huge receiving threat, 26 receptions. The one backup I will highlight is Dylan Sampson, also going into year 2. This Cleveland team is so young. So Dylan is this receiving back. He played 15 games. His average is 2.7. Nothing to write home about. No rushing touchdowns. Receiving the ball, 32 catches, 271 yards, 2 touchdowns. So just, if you have Judkins, you may want to handcuff him with Dylan Sampson. And now the receiver room. Yeah, where do you go? You got Jerry Jeudy. I drafted him last year. He was terrible. This offense from the Browns was not good. Jeudy, back when he was in Denver, and then that 1 year he had with Cleveland, the first year with Cleveland, was his best in terms of yardage. Yeah, I don't know. Is he going to get a lot of playing time? He's played 17 games the last 2 seasons. 27 years old. He's in his prime. So maybe I'm sleeping on Jerry Jeudy. Maybe he could have a bust out this year. And then you got these rookies. KC Concepcion, 1st round pick. He's fast, explosive. Questions about his hands. But I did like that draft pick, and I like this one too, Denzel Boston. This offense should look way more explosive if they can get some consistent quarterback play. Boston, 6'4", 215 pounds, 2nd round pick. He was talked about going in the 1st round. I do like what Cleveland did here. And then Harold Fannon's their starting tight end. They let David Njoku go over to the Chargers. Harold Fannon going into his second season. I feel like I've said that a lot. This offense is tremendously young. Fannon, I feel, came out of nowhere. 3rd-round pick last year. Hit a really good season. 72 receptions. Come on, man. 731 yards, 6 touchdowns. I'm high on Fannon Jr. Really good tight end. And then talking about the offensive line, here's their rookie, Spencer Fanu, 6'6", 315 pounds, rookie. 1st-round pick, 9 overall, handling the blind side of Shador or Deshaun. You got Zion Washington at left guard, another big body. He's 26. Also a 1st-round pick, but he was a 1st-round pick by the Chargers. Elton Jenkins, 2nd-round pick by the Packers, 30 years old, man in center. That's a projection. Tevin Jenkins, another 2nd-round pick. So just look where these guys were drafted. They should be good if they play according to their talent. 6'6", 321. Just some maulers, man. Just monsters of men. And then you got Titus Howard, 1st-round pick in 2019 from the Texans, 30 years old, 6'5", 320 pounds. I have the most faith in the Browns offensive line based on their ranking last year, even though there's been quite a bit of movement with this line. On the defensive side of the ball, we're just going to highlight a few of these. Mason Graham going into his 2nd year. He was the 5th pick in the 1st round in 2025. He's 22 years old. He should be much improved this season. Jared Verse, 25, coming over for the Rams to try to fill the big shoes by Myles Garrett. Jared Verse, though, man, this guy, Niners played him twice a year, sometimes 3 when we get to the playoffs. He's just a game wrecker. 7.5 sacks last year. He's played 17 games his 2 seasons. I love Jared Verse. To get him and those draft picks, I think that was smart by the Browns. They weren't going to re-sign Myles Garrett. He was done. Got Wiley veteran Malik Collins, age 31, defensive tackle. This guy, Carson Schweshinger, I think he was in contention from Rookie of the Year. So from that linebacker position, 67 solo tackles, 2 interceptions, 2.5 sacks. Excellent draft pick. He's going into year 2. Denzel Ward, another big name, 1st-round pick in 2018, 1 interception, 9 passes defended. He's a stud over there holding down the cornerback spot. Check out Tyson Campbell, 26 years old, 1 interception, 18 passes deflected, 54 solo tackles. I like this guy too. Used to be a Jacksonville Jaguar. Grant Delpit, another draft pick from the Browns, 2nd round, 2020, 1 interception, 48 tackles last year. Not going to look at everyone on this defense, but this defense is a force to be reckoned with, even with the loss of Myles Garrett. This is going to be a much improved team when I start doing my ranking of the standings. We'll see where they are, but in terms of their defense and offensive line, those are the core pieces for me of what I'm into, not just being a high-flying offense. Their offense is the weak point, though. One more team to get into, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Mike Tomlin's gone. That's the biggest news here. Aaron Rodgers back to play with Mike McCarthy, who he played with in Green Bay, where he made this Hall of Fame career. Aaron Rodgers, was so fun to watch. Politically, I don't want to hear from this guy anymore. What a phenomenal career. Last 2 seasons, pretty comparable. Play with the Jets, 17 games. Play with the Steelers, 16 games. With the Steelers, 28 with the Jets. 7 interceptions last year. He's pretty consistent. If you jump back to 2021 with Green Bay, he had 37 touchdowns, and in 2020, 48. So he's not at his pinnacle like he was. He's got some more weapons this year, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do. And then rushing the ball, you can see quite a big drop off as he's aged. You got to go back to 2018 where he's had over 200 yards rushing, but he was a threat back in the day. He used to be one of the top fantasy quarterbacks out there. Aaron Rodgers, Hall of Fame career. Backups, Mason Rudolph has been there for a while, and then he's got 2nd year, Will Howard, 24 years old, 6th-round pick in 2025, and then Drew, 3rd-round pick this year. I'll be curious to see who wins this one. Drew was hurt out of Penn State. Folks are pretty high on him. Didn't think he'd drop that far if he wasn't hurt. Running back-wise, kind of this 2-headed monster. You got Jaylen Warren. He really surprised me last year with his production when he was healthy. 27 years old. Big time receiving threat. 61 receptions in 2023. He had 40 last year, 38 the year before. Hovers around 300 yards receiving. Running the ball last year was his best. He had 958 yards, so almost 1,000 yards and 6 touchdowns. So between the receiving yards and the rushing yards, that's where you get that production. Hit 8 total touchdowns last year. Coming in to be the thunder to his lightning, I guess, Rico Dowdle. 5'11", 215 pounds, 28 years old. Just looking at his stats, started his career at the Cowboys last year with Carolina. He stole kind of Hubbard's job there for a little bit, and he was on fire, man. I just thought like, oh, this guy's busting out. And then Hubbard came in and took time. So the consistency with Dowdle's interesting. But the last 2 years, one with Dallas, one with the Panthers, a little under 1,100 yards, and he had 6 touchdowns, his career high last year. Receiving, somewhat similar to Jaylen Warren. He had 39 receptions the last 2 years. This dude's super consistent. I would expect Rico Dowdle to be similar fantasy production in terms of touchdowns, 7 to 8 touchdowns, and this like 13 to 1,400 yards combined. The other guy, maybe just to keep your eye on, he did disappoint last year, had some moments where it's like, man, you don't know the rules. 23 years old, Caleb Johnson, going into year 2, didn't do much of anything from a fantasy standpoint, played 10 games, 2.5 average a carry, so that wasn't good and no touchdowns. However, he might have gotten better with the coaching and just working hard. I ain't drafting him. I'll draft the other 2 guys, but someone to keep your eye on, especially if there's an injury. Wide receiver room, much improved with the addition of Michael Pittman Jr. He'll be the number 2 to DK Metcalf, or maybe they're both number 2s, but this is absolute possession receiver. I think he was very underrated over there with Indianapolis Colts. Consistent. 80 receptions, 69. He had 109 the year before, 99 receptions, 1,000 yards in 2023, 1,000 yards in 2021. Touchdown-wise, he's going to get around 5. He's had a high of 7 last year. 28 years old, second-round pick from the Colts back in 2020. I do like Michael Pittman Jr. The other guy I wanted on my team for many years when he was a Seahawk is 28-year-old DK Metcalf. Now, he's another one of these guys that maybe I built up his production a little much in my mind. Last 2 years, under 1,000 yards. He played 15 games each time. Touchdown-wise, last 4 years, he's going to get you like 6 to 7 touchdowns. He had a high of 12 in 2021 and 10 touchdowns in 2020. He's only gotten more than 1,000 yards 3 times in his career. So DK Metcalf, I think because he's all muscle, chiseled, I just was expecting he was going to be more than what he is. Now, with Michael Pittman here, they shouldn't be able to double team him, so maybe you're going to get some physical mismatch with DK Metcalf. And then we'll just take a look at the rookie they brought in, second-round pick, Jeremy Bernard, 6'1", 206 pounds, out of Alabama. This should be a good player. Maybe the third receiver. They have Roman Wilson plugged in, 25 years old, but I'm thinking Bernard's going to steal some time there. Tight end wise, you got Pat Freiermuth. If he was the only tight end, maybe, but you look at his production, 41 receptions, 4 touchdowns. Just look at his stats over the years. His high, 732 yards, is back in 2022. And then touchdown wise, he's got 7 touchdowns twice. Kind of 4 to 5 is kind of be his range for touchdowns. Now, he's not competing with Jonnu Smith, so maybe you're going to get more production out of Freiermuth. You also have the big-bodied Darnell Washington, 6'7", 264 pounds. This dude looks like a offensive lineman going out there and catching passes. He's a monster of a man. Round 3 pick in the 2023 draft. And then one more, former Packer, Robert Tonyan. If they go these 3 tight end sets, Tonyan might be intriguing. I think he played with Aaron Rodgers, so maybe they're bringing a connection there. 2022, he had 470 yards. Since then, hasn't really done anything. And then we'll just go through some of the guys on the defense. Steelers known for this vaunted defense, hasn't played that well in a while. Cameron Hayward, 37 years old. I love this guy. If you go see him on some of these, he's got a podcast and he comes on these different shows and talks. The deepest voice ever. Great career with the Steelers. Drafted in 2011, first-round pick. But yeah, dig him, defensive tackle. Hayward's a stud. TJ Watt may be the most famous, 31 years old, also a first-round pick back in 2017. Last year, he had 7 sacks. This dude is a game wrecker. JJ Watt's brother. Talk about some good lineage with these guys. 11-point sacks in 2024. He had 22.5 in 2021. So he's healthy. This is a guy, you just got to know where he is, and you got a game plan around him. Derek Harmon, first-round pick last year, 6'4", 313 pounds, also listed as a defensive tackle. He played 12 games, 11 tackles, 3 sacks. He was okay. There should be a big step up from this first-round pick. Let's go Patrick Queen, former Raven, that division rival, also a first-round pick in 2020. He's a smart football player. There's a guy that just can fly around the field, get a ton of tackles. Last year, he had 120. The year before, 129. The year before that, 130. That was a good I mean, just to get someone from your rival who plays this well, checkmate Steelers. Alex Highsmith, another guy that's been with Pittsburgh since 2020, third-round pick from the linebacker position, played 13 games last year, 50 tackles, 9.5 sacks, so another threat here on the defense. And then you got Jalen Ramsey, 31 years old. He's regular season, 53 tackles, 1 interception, 8 passes deflected. He's been with a few teams. Jalen Ramsey can still ball out. That was a good to bring that veteran leadership over here. He's one of those guys that's going to be talking smack to whoever he's carding. They also brought in Jamel Dean over from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Last year, 46 tackles. The year before, 59. And they bring over Jaquan Brisker from the Bears. Regular season, 52 tackles, 1 interception, 8 passes defended. So bringing in some secondary help, I think that was a smart move. The other guy I want to give a shout out to, his dad was a beast, Joey Porter Sr. So now we got Joey Porter Jr., also on the Steelers, 26 years old. He was a second-round pick in 2023. I like this cornerback a lot. Played 14 games last year. 52 tackles, 1 sack, 1 interception, 14 passes defended. The Steelers, if they're healthy, they could get back into laying the thumper down like we've known Pittsburgh to do. Time to rank the quarterbacks. I'm going to say it's only challenging at the top. Do I go to Lamar Jackson or do I go Joe Burrow? Both battling injuries. Man, Lamar Jackson can run. Doesn't have his OC anymore. Derrick Henry's getting older. They brought in some O-line help. Zay Flowers is a stud. I'm going Joe Burrow. Even though Joe Burrow does not run, Cincinnati has made some improvements. He has way more weapons with Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown. Ranking in this division, Joe Burrow's going to be my number 1. Lamar Jackson will be my number 2. I'm expecting a bounce back, but not to what he did 2 years ago. I think that was probably too much to ask for, but they've got to keep Lamar Jackson healthy. They got to lean more on Derrick Henry. I got to go Aaron Rodgers because I don't know what's going to happen in Cleveland. I think Shador's going to get the job. He's going to be step up. I like the weapons they've brought in, these young rookies. Judkins should get better. Shador made some bonehead things last year, and I really can't root for Deshaun Watson anymore. Is he a redemption story? I mean, is he apologetic? I haven't really seen that. So Aaron Rodgers, number 3, and then we're going to go Shador Sanders as number 4 in this division. I'm not talking about Watson anymore. I'm over that guy. Running backs. I mean, this is a tough one. All right. Chase Brown's my number 1. I'm really excited for this kid. I've yet to have him on any of my fantasy teams. I usually play in 4 leagues, hoping to get him this year, at least on 1 team. Chase Brown's my number 1, been very consistent so far. They have improved the offensive line. They can't stack the box because they got all these other receivers, so I like that. My number 2, I don't think I can draft Derrick Henry. I struggle with these older running backs, and sometimes it bites me later. But where Derrick Henry's going to go in the top 2 rounds, I can't take him there. Maybe in the 3rd round, but I like Quinshon Judkins better. Judkins is going to be my number 2. I like that offensive line. There's more receivers there. So again, in terms of stacking the box, if you do that against Cleveland, these receivers could get open, so Shador better get them the ball. Derrick Henry will be my 3. I wish I had a Derrick Henry jersey. I'm going to watch his highlights after this. The highlights of this guy are freaking amazing. And then Jaylen Warren, I think he's going to be in a timeshare with Rico Dowdle. And just looking at how consistent Dowdle was the last 2 years, I'm going to take Rico Dowdle over Jaylen Warren, but not by far. It's close. So we're going Chase Brown, Judkins, Henry, Dowdle, and then Jaylen Warren. This has got to be the most fun one to rank right here. Oh, by far. Jamar Chase, just amazing. He is going to be most often the number 1 receiver drafted. Fantastic quarterback. T. Higgins is opposite him. And so if you double him, T's open. If you double him, double T. I mean, you got Chase Brown running. Chase can also catch the ball. So by far and away, Jamar Chase, number 1. Zay Flowers is going to be my number 2. He's the clear-cut number 1 in Baltimore. When you look at Pittsburgh with DK and Michael Pittman, I think their reception-wise, their production is going to be, DK's going to have more yardage. Pittman's going to have more receptions. And then touchdown-wise, they're probably going to be pretty comparable. I like both those guys, but like as my wide receiver 3, not even my wide receiver 2. And part of it's because I have been burnt by DK Metcalf before. Jerry Jeudy, coming into this, I'm like, I'm not even going to draft Jerry Jeudy. But he's 27 years old, 27 or 28. That is prime athletic age. You got Denzel Boston and Casey Concepcion there now, so you got more weapons. Harold Fannin as a tight end. Judkins there. Dylan Sampson in the backfield. Oh, man, this is tough. Jamar Chase, number 1. Zay Flowers, number 2. Not on the screen. T. Higgins is going to be my number 3. I won't draft him, though, but he'll be my number 3. Then we're going to go... I got to do it. We're going to go DK Metcalf just because of the explosiveness of the plays. But if I'm playing in a PPR, I'm going to go Michael Pittman Jr. Then I'm going to go Jerry Jeudy. It's going to be tough, man. If I'm faced with Jerry Jeudy versus Casey Concepcion or Denzel Boston, the bottom is kind of messy for me. Sorry, I don't have a clear-cut answer. Today, if I'm drafting, I am going to, my breakdown of Jerry Jeudy, I'm going to take him over those two rookies. But yeah, one of my leagues is standard. It's not PPR. It's old school. I'm taking DK Metcalf. In my other 3 leagues, it's PPR. I'm taking Michael Pittman over DK Metcalf. Jamar Chase, Zay Flowers, T. Higgins. PPR league, we're going to go Michael Pittman, DK Metcalf, and then Jerry Jeudy. This is not an exciting tight end group. Mark Andrews, Freiermuth, Mike Gesicki, Harold Fannin Jr. The only guy I'm excited about is Fannin Jr. So, ChatGPT making this thumbnail for me put Harold Fannin in number 4. Harold Fannin is my number 1, clear cut, under 800 yards. Yeah, he was the safety blanket for Shedeur Sanders and whoever else was back there. Joe Flacco, probably Gabriel is out there. Harold Fannin's my number 1 for sure. Then I'm going to go Mark Andrews, but the consistency is not there. Mark Andrews will be my number 2. Pat Freiermuth will be my 3. Now, Freiermuth could get back to be decent fantasy-wise, especially with Jonnu Smith not being there. So Freiermuth, my number 3, and then Mike Gesicki, not super fantasy relevant. Freiermuth and Gesicki probably and should not be drafted in your fantasy football leagues. Harold Fannin, absolutely. And then Mark Andrews, I think, will be drafted. One less thing to do. Let's do the standings of the AFC North. How are these guys going to finish? In first place, it is going to be the Baltimore Ravens. I'm expecting them to be healthy. I do like Jesse Minter coming over from the Chargers to be their head coach. John Harbaugh was there a long time. I'm a big John Harbaugh fan, but it was time for a change. Lamar Jackson, Flowers, Derrick Henry, the guys on the defense, Queen, Roquan Smith, Kyle Hamilton, they're going to win this division. In second place, man, Cincy jumping up to second, I don't know. Breaking down that team, I do like the defensive additions with Sexy Dexy, Mafe. They do lose Trey Hendrickson over to the Ravens. Man, I don't know. Their defense was horrendous last year. Really good offense, terrible defense. Steelers-wise, I think Mike Tomlin there is a big step down. Mike McCarthy, he's probably okay, but I think the Steelers are going to miss Mike Tomlin. Cleveland Browns are going to be in third place. They are young. They got a new coach coming in, Todd Monken. I don't love that guy. They've been drafting very well, other than quarterback at this point. Shedeur is going to be better, but this is going to be a tough nose, smash the ball, rush the passer. Judkins is going to have a great year. Yeah. Browns are going to be my number 3 in the division. Steelers are going to be last place. Mike Tomlin not being there. Aaron Rodgers getting older. Even though they brought some offensive weapons in, they're going to be battling Cleveland for that 3 and 4 spot. But I'm going to put Pittsburgh in last place. I know Steelers fans are going to hate me for that. Cincinnati, fine. You made some good additions defensively. I like what you did there. I'm expecting you guys to be healthy. The offense is lights out. Too many weapons. Joe Burrow's a beast. When you get compared to Joe Montana, you got to be a stud. So we're going Ravens first. Bengals will be second place. Bengals will not make the playoffs. Browns third place. Steelers fourth place. All right, y'all. I'm curious what you think. Be well. Take care. I'll get another division ranking out here real soon.